morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Between My Therapist and I. This year, we are going to be working on the lifespan. So for our first mental health tips of the week, we are actually going to be starting with red flags, 5 red flags that our young adolescent viewers and teens need to be aware of when they start relationships. So this is for our young viewers or for parents, teachers, therapists that want to share this with their adolescents that they care about and they have in their lives. We encourage you to talk to them about these red flags and just kind of empower them to use the different tools that we provide in the video as well. Right now, for this video, I am being joined by Allison, our front desk receptionist and mental health student with Capella University, and myself, Lily Smith, owner of The Traveling Therapist and licensed clinical social worker. So let's jump right in with the first red flag. Allison's going to be naming the flags, and I'm going to be kind of sharing a little bit of what each flag represents.
Okay. So the first red flag is if the child has been brought up to kind of stay quiet, respect your elders, kind of the do as I say, not as I do mentality. And you had talked about how that leads to no trust for like power figures or adults.
So here's what we're talking about specifically. Most of the time when we raise our children, or when you have been raised, if you're an adolescent watching this, in a mostly authoritative household, meaning you are not supposed to have an opinion, you're not supposed to talk back, you're not supposed to share your thoughts and feelings. It's mostly, here's how it is, and it's because I say so, and you hear that a lot, and just do what you're supposed to do and keep quiet and be a good kid. If you're raised in a household like that, or if you're raising your adolescent in a household like that, most of the time the message that the young person is receiving is that authority figures like mom, dad, family members have the ultimate say. They are the ones that control the adolescent. They're the ones that are controlling the child. So that's a huge red flag, because if you're a young kid and you are presented with a teacher, a mentor, a coach, just a stranger who happens to be older than you, who happens to be in an authority position, like a teaching position, like a coaching position, like in a religious organization, and maybe they're the pastor, maybe, et cetera, et cetera. The adolescent, or if you're watching as an adolescent, you're going to feel like you just can't say no to them. You're not going to feel like you have the ability to push back or to set boundaries or to argue or to fight. First of all, because they're physically bigger than you. Secondly, because it's going to be your word against theirs. And goodness forbid that you were raised in the type of household where your parent is going to come in and they're going to see you as a problem because you embarrassed them, or because you brought shame to the home, or because you were, just doing something that they couldn't possibly believe was happening. I mean, we see that so much when we have young people say, hey, my coach, for example, said something to me and I felt really uncomfortable. And you see the parent turn around and say, you don't know what you were talking about. He would never do that. Or my brother or my sister did something like this. Oh, they were just playing with you. Or my uncle, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why it's a big red flag, is because you're literally being raised to think that your opinion is invalid. And you will be more likely to minimize situations that are really serious that are happening to you for the sake of not getting into trouble. So that's the first and probably the biggest red flag. So now we're going to talk about maybe some ways that you can get around that.
Yeah, I had a question too regarding how this affects different genders too, because both males and females are going to feel these things differently, but they're still going to affect both genders, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So females have a tendency, especially if they're raised in authoritative types of households, they have a tendency to want to be people pleasers. They want to keep the peace. They want to follow the rules. They want to make sure that everybody's happy. And the idea of bringing shame, which is a huge tool that abusers use and child molesters and stuff like that use, is shame and guilt. They will do just about anything to not hurt mom and dad's feelings or disappoint them or bring them shame. So you'll see a female child, an adolescent, holding back from being honest about what's happening to her because she's afraid of what the other family members are going to think and feel. And she will experience shame in a different kind of way. Now, the male, you see them try to defend themselves on their own. They won't come out and talk. They will not come out and talk. They will most likely want to try to fight back on their own. If they can't fight back and they feel helpless, the shame is going to actually get them to a point where they'll start acting out. And then what happens in an authoritative household is that if you act out as a kid, you're a problem kid. And you don't see the parents doing their best to try and figure out, why did my child change? What is causing them to react in this way? Why are they isolating? Why are they fighting at school? Why are they getting sad and upset? Why are they just their personality is not like what they used to be? Why are they messing up at school or their grades are going down? The parents are not usually going to be looking at that. They're going to be looking at the fact that you're breaking the rules. Mm-hmm. And as a rule breaker, you need to be either punished or controlled, or you need to be managed. And so that's where you're going to see, these kids start to escalate. They go from just getting into fights at school and then getting in trouble at home for getting into fights. Maybe they're getting beat at home. Maybe they're getting punished by being things being taken away from them. So they're thinking, not only am I being punished by being abused, but I'm also coming home and I get no support, no help, nobody that I can talk to, and I'm getting punished at home too. And so it's really fast how they escalate from I'm just getting into fights at school to using drugs, hanging out with gangs, running away from home, all these different things, because the abuse is still happening while they're coming home and they're getting either beat down by mom and dad, or psychologically beat down, or criticized, or punished at school, or, all these different things. So this terrible thing is happening while the other stuff is happening too. So as an adolescent, these are things that can happen if you are in a situation where you feel like you have no win because your voice has no value.
So if this is resonating, then one of those solutions to a big gap is the lack of communication. So you can request to talk to a school counselor or a spiritual leader if you're religious, or to talk to a therapist, or maybe even a doctor, but somebody that's going to help you communicate with your parents, because this is a time where you don't feel like you can speak up, and it helps give you a voice when that happens.
Yeah. If you're in an adolescent or any child, and you feel like you don't have the ability to speak up for yourself, go to someone that will listen to you. It can be a professional or it can be a family member, but ask for their help in intervening, so that then you can have the conversation with your parents present, but also with this third person present who's going to stand up for you too. So that's one possibilities. You can go about it that way.
So the second red flag is, do you have a positive support system, like friends or
A team.
Yeah, a team that you play on, but people that are going to kind of rally around you.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that we've taken away from interviewing individuals who are predators, child predators, is that when you are the type of child that is isolated from the herd, much like in the wild, those who are isolated from the herd are the ones that are the easy pickings. So if you're the type of kid that you're mostly isolated, you eat mostly alone at lunch, you play mostly alone, you don't have a whole lot of support, maybe things are not so great at home, maybe you come to school and you're that odd man out, you're that one kid that nobody talks to, that nobody wants to hang out with, or maybe things are not going good for you and you're pushing people away without even realizing it, you're going to be a target. So you need to understand that there is a lot of power in having a healthy support system. And I'm talking, it can be one strong person, it can be 2, 3, it doesn't have to be like a whole gang of people, but as long as the predator sees that you are stable enough to build a relationship with someone who's by your side, who's accompanying you when you're out playing, when you're out at lunch, maybe they're walking with you home, that sort of thing, you're going to be less likely to be targeted.
It's kind of like that old adage of there's safety in numbers.
Absolutely. And of course, be mindful of the people that you pick to hang out with. But, there's a lot of really good kids out there that feel like alone, that wish they could hang out together. So look out for people that like that, because they're out there.
So red flag number 3. Have you met somebody that starts off really charming and then kind of starts talking about questions that make you a little more uncomfortable, like feeling good or being touched, or they start asking questions that they weren't asking at the beginning?
Yeah. So most of you guys, and I'm talking in general for young viewers today, most of you guys have some sort of social media or gaming account or both. I have watched multiple interviews with individuals who track down predators and hunt down predators, and it takes seconds for a predator to start communicating with an adolescent. I saw recently a video where someone who hunts down predators online, who's an amazing hacker, is one of the greatest. And the interview was like, how long do you think it would take for an adolescent to get approached by a predator online? And he's like, let's try it right now. So he sits across from the interviewer, takes out his phone, he goes online to, I think he went, it was either Instagram or something similar to that. I think it was Instagram or something along those lines. He created a profile. He put himself as a 13-year-old girl, put a picture that was like a cute comic book picture, went on a chat. So I don't know if it was Instagram or not, but it was something online where went on a chat for this group of teens. It was a teen group. Went on this chat and said, I'm new here. I'm just trying to find some people to talk to. That's all she said. Supposedly it's actually a grown man, but I'm new here. I'm looking for somebody to talk to, or I'm looking to meet some people. That was all. And then this person put on the watch and started watching the clock. In less than 10 seconds, this profile already had at least 1 like, 30 seconds, 2 comments. Hey, how old are you? What do you like to watch? What are you into? They literally stayed doing this for 1 minute, 60 seconds, 1 minute, and this so-called 13-year-old girl received over a dozen messages asking about how old she was, what was she into, did she like older men, did she what school did she go to, was she local. 60 seconds. So when we're talking about the red flag, that is what we're talking about. We're talking about you need to be very mindful of the fact that you are being watched. You're being very, very closely watched by people that have the worst possible intentions. And they're going to start with like, oh, hi, yeah, I'm 15, they'll say. I'm a 15-year-old boy. I'm into this comic. What are you into? Or, yeah, I'm 17. Right at the edge. Right at the edge. Not quite 18. I'm 17. But it can be a 45-year-old man on the other side. So, one of the biggest problems why this is a red flag is because they know how to set it up so that you really like the attention. It's nice. It's nice when somebody asks what your interests are. It's nice when people are like sharing your hobbies. It's nice when people tell you that you're pretty or that you're hot or that, they take an interest in your grades. They take an interest in what school or sports you're going to, all these different things. It's nice when you can go to someone and message them about your crappy day and they seem to actually care. It's nice to feel special. Mm-hmm. So they know that. And the second that you start to respond, they'll start to escalate. And that's when they start to ask, like, let's meet in person. Let's exchange pictures. Let's exchange videos. Let's FaceTime. Let's do this. Let's do that. And the reason why they're asking for you to FaceTime, the reason why they're asking to exchange pictures is that because they want to confirm, they want to know what school you go to because they want to confirm your age. Because then the next step is, let's meet. And then that's when they do what they're really intending to do, which is usually, kidnapping or whatever it is that, they're going to do. So be very careful and it escalates very quickly. It moves fast. Like they're moving from one kid to another, to another, to another. So they're not going to take a month to get you to ask you if you want to meet in person. They're going to be literally within a couple of days. They're going to bombard you, love bomb you. Like they're going to bombard you with positive things. And then they're going to start being like, so like, you want to meet?
So they're kind of like grooming you to be more comfortable with more escalated things.
Yes. And they've learned that kids, adolescents these days, unfortunately, are so isolated. They're so isolated, they're so alone, and they're emotionally so neglected that it doesn't take very much for them to get excited about even the smallest bit of attention, especially from an older kid.
I know you've mentioned too a lot from like the female perspective of like, they're calling you pretty, they're calling you hot, stuff like that. But this is happening with males too. It's
Absolutely.
Not just like the example that she gave was the 13-year-old girl. It's not just with the 13-year-old girls. It's they're still approaching males too, younger males. Anybody that they feel is isolated, that's looking for a support system, they're going to try and be that support system so that they can take advantage.
Yes, and with the males, with boys, with adolescent young men and etc., you're going to look at it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more forceful. It's pushing the envelope a little bit more forcefully. the shame of being caught doing something that's going to make you look like if you're gay, or that's going to make you look weak, is huge for boys. And they exploit that, and they exploit it very hard. So shame is going to be a big one, you know. So what you might find with the boys is that right off the bat, they might send you like an inappropriate picture. Like the man on the other side of that screen who targeted you, who has maybe a girl's profile, you know, hey, 15-year-old cute girl here, looking for boys to play this video game with or whatever. As soon as you accept the invitation and you answer some questions that maybe, you know, like, what are you into? What do you like? They'll start to, do you like boys? Do you like girls? They'll start to ask about your sexual orientation. They will probably start almost immediately sending pictures that are inappropriate pictures of his body parts, of the male body parts. They will start to promote pornographic behavior almost immediately. So their goal is to just blitz you into feeling cornered and like having to do it. So it's more aggressive.
Okay, so the whole point of this video, right, is to present these red flags. So if you see these things happening, you can address them.
Yes.
So block
the person.
That was going to be my question.
Right.
What do we do?
Block them, report them, call the police, you know, hotline. There's a sexual predator hotline that you can call. I believe there's an option to anonymously report it to your social media account, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
And remember what you were on that website, right? If you were seeking the friendships and that's why you were targeted, well, keep seeking friendships, but maybe do it at your school or talk to your parents about getting you into community events or something like that.
Yeah, community sports or, yeah, that sort of thing.
Other outlets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the fourth red flag was, are they asking you small things that kind of break your moral rules and then escalating that?
Yeah. So something that you may not know at this age is that one of the things that most people who have bad intentions do is they find small but consistent ways to push you into doing things that you would otherwise not do. So they'll ask you to maybe stay up later than you should. Then they'll ask you to maybe meet them somewhere, or buy something for them, or use a certain drug, or like they'll start escalating little by little, because once they see that you're easy to manipulate, and I'm sorry to say it that way, but that's what they're looking for. They are not looking for difficult kids. They're not looking for kids that are hard-headed. They're not looking for kids that are comfortable saying no. They're not looking for kids that will set boundaries. They're looking for kids that are easy to manipulate and that are easy to control, because they don't have time to sit and really like take the time to groom you over years. No, they're there for the mass market of your body and your innocence. Like they're moving. It's gotten to that point. So if depending on how fast you're comfortable crossing boundaries for this person, that's how fast they're going to escalate it. And the ultimate goal at the end is for you to meet them in person so that you can be videoed doing whatever they want you to do. That is the ultimate goal, because then that can be spread into the internet, and that can be shared, and that can be sold, and that can be exchanged. That's the ultimate goal.
And you had mentioned something about disappointment before too, of they want you to feel like you don't want to disappoint them, or you don't want to feel the shame, like you talked about it before as well. So they're going to really harp on that.
Yeah, they're gonna tell you things like, "Come on, you don't wanna break my heart. You don't wanna make me feel sad. Why can't you show me that picture? Like, are you ashamed of yourself? Like, are you not who you say you are? Like, do you not like me? Do you not want to hang out? Do you not want to be my friend?" That sort of thing. And then if you keep insisting, they'll be like, "Well, I can talk to your parents. Like, I can always, like, I know where you go to school now, or I know this, or I know that, or like, I've seen you before." Like, they'll start to like instigate even more. So that is a big red flag. At that point, you really need to be careful, and you immediately need to like contact the police about that and report it. But yeah, once they've love bombed you and made you feel super special and like you're super interesting and you're so much fun to be around, you really don't want to let them go. And so they know that, and so they are going to see how fast they can get you to break the rules for them.
And the final red flag is to trust your instincts.
Yes. So there's a biological side to every human being where we have an instinct for danger. And every single time that little warning bell in our head goes off and we don't answer the call, we don't pay attention to it, or we shut it down, every single time that happens, it's reinforcing to your brain that you don't really want it. You don't want to get the awareness whenever there's danger. You don't care to know when there's danger. So be sure to pay attention to your gut feelings. When something feels off, when something feels wrong, pay attention to your gut. You've seen it before, you have. You've heard it from other friends, from you've seen it on TV. At some point in time, you've seen these red flags before. Don't ignore them, because it can literally be the difference between your life and that. So yeah, that's a big one.
So we know that often kids will kind of shut down those instincts. What are some reasons why they would shut it down?
Well, if you've been brought up in a household where you're not allowed to really talk about your feelings or your concerns, your worries, it's natural to shut it down because you don't have a way to release them. So let's say, for example, that your family's doing business with somebody that looks really shady, but they're visiting the house and they're getting really close to you, and they shouldn't be that close to you, but like your parents seem to not care. They don't, and then you come to your parents later on and you say, like, that person was really like kind of in my space, in my bubble. And when I had to hug them, because a lot of times we'll make them, kids will be forced to like hug or kiss strangers or family members that they're not comfortable with. When I had to hug them, like, they squeezed me a little too much. And the parents say, "You're overthinking it. You're like, there's nothing wrong with them. Everything's fine," etc., etc. You learn that your instincts don't matter. So it becomes habit to shut it down.
I think sometimes it might be intentional too, to like gain friends along that same line of like, if you're getting some kind of benefit out of it. So like, if you're getting that attention or you're getting those friends because you're shutting down those instincts, they might not be the right friends.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're getting that support that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I don't know if I talked about socially right and wrong in biology. Did we mention that?
Oh, so that goes along with a previous red flag that we had too. When you meet somebody that's charming. No, the one thing you mentioned was the disconnect between the body and the mind. So that is another thing that goes along with our red flags.
So before we close off, and I know this was a little bit longer than we typically would for the tips of the week, but this is really, really, really important, and I don't want to miss it. So going back to feeling good and getting that attention from the person on the other side of the screen. Most of the time, predators understand that physically, especially at that age when you're an adolescent and your hormones are going like crazy and just raging on, they know that physically there are things that they can do to you that feel good. So people talk about good touch, bad touch. It won't feel bad. It's not going to feel bad. They will literally make it so that it feels good. They're not gonna do it. Like, there are certain types of predators that are sociopaths that they get off on pain and hurting the person, but the majority of them, no, they want you to go along with it. So they will do their best that to make you feel physically like bad touch is actually good. And then they use that to reinforce the feeling of shame, because I shouldn't have liked that. I shouldn't have wanted to do that. I shouldn't have thought about it afterwards. Like, I'm a terrible person. Like, I'm disgusting, I'm dirty, I'm not good. How can I like something like this being done to me? Like, they will exploit that. But all you have to understand is this. Society is one thing. What we have been taught so that we can live together as people and follow rules, that there's such a thing as good and bad, and there's such a thing as right and wrong. That's a society thing. That's so that we don't kill each other, we don't go after each other, it's not chaotic. That's a society thing. Biology is a different story. Biology says that the second that the girl starts to get into the menstrual phase of their life and the boy starts to get into the post-pubescent phase of their life, you're ready to come together. You're ready to engage in sexual behavior. Like, that is the animal part of us. Society says you're too young. It's such a huge responsibility emotionally, psychologically. But your body's thinking, nope, I'm old enough to procreate. I'm 12 years old. So the grown-ups behind that screen, they know that, and they know how to use it against you. They know how to manipulate it. They know how to make you feel like you're socially a really bad person just because your animal instincts are kicking in. So I didn't want to forget to mention that. That's a very, very, very big part of how they keep you in the loop, continuing to get abused.
Yep. So those are our main red flags, especially when it comes to like the predatory relationships.
Yes. So if you don't see these red flags, at least you know that the person who is on the other side of that screen or who you just met is not a predator. And that's a really good start to a relationship, I would say. And you can move on from there. But that's something that I think not a lot of adolescents get talked about, and we wanted to bring it up. So, okay. That is our segment for today on Between My Therapist and I. Again, a little bit longer than we were expected, but very necessary. And if you're a young viewer out there and you're watching this, trust me that there's adults that want to help. There's adults that do believe you and that do take you seriously, and your experience is valid to them. So don't just look at your immediate circle. If your immediate circle can't provide that support, expand it a little bit more, because we are out here and we base our entire lives around supporting you guys. So don't be afraid. Don't think that you're alone. Reach out, ask for help. It will be out there. So yeah, we hope you have a awesome 2024. May none of these things ever happen to you. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.